welcome back to Petty Astrology Live. We have a very special episode today, getting ready for the holiday season, which we are so shortly about to fall into. I guess some would consider like the post Halloween time, I think, like the holiday season these days. But to get us ready for what is kind of a different holiday season, at least that I remember, I thought it would be really great to have a conversation with financial educator Mimi Cirbusova, who's been on Petty Astrology before. Because so much of our holiday season in, capitalist America revolves around consumption. So I thought we'd have a great conversation about what's so different about this particular holiday season and how we can use it to, first of all, enjoy our lives. I know it's a wild concept, but second of all, we can use this period of time, as challenging as it is, for a radical new approach to the economy and kind of what it means to be a person and what it means to celebrate holidays. So joining me now, we've got Mimi Cirbusova. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited to chat with you tonight and what great timing for sure.
Yes. I mean, geez, it's look, the economy is not great right now. Like, first of all, I guess we should back up and talk a little bit like what when people say the economy, Mimi, what do you as a financial educator, like what does that mean to you?
Well, you have to remember that the economy is made up of a lot of different things, and your personal economy, like the way that you operate with your budget and with your money coming in and your income, it's a lot different than like the economy of the government or the economy of a country. And we can't treat all of those economies the same, but they all impact each other. Whenever I think about the economy, I'm like, there is so many factors at play that we never even talk about, and there's strings being pulled in lots of different directions, and we're all just trying to swim in this world that is not designed for the majority of us, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like when people talk about the economy, like it's just they're talking about stocks. They're talking about
A lot of times, yeah.
right? Like it feels like it's so detached from what most people's day-to-day lives are. I think in terms of the stocks of it all, like unfortunately it seems like so many people have their retirement and like assets tied up in the stock market. So in that sense, I think it does relate to people's like everyday lives. But
Yeah, sure does.
unfortunately, I feel like hello, we got Mackenzie in the audience. We've got our petty astrology community here for the live show, and hopefully people in the future watching us over
Hi.
on YouTube. We've got Shelby here as well. Hello, hello, nice to see everybody. So yeah, like the economy, the stock market. I don't want to say that stocks are not important, but I feel some type of way about the economy being essentially like high stakes gambling.
It is, and we have to remember too that what, you know, what's in, for instance, my retirement account, it doesn't really matter what's happening today with the stock market because I'm not planning on taking that money out and for another 30 to 35 years.
Right.
But for the people who are trying to retire tomorrow, they're thinking very deeply about what's happening today to the stock market. And I think a lot of times we forget that just because the stock market is either doing really well or not doing so well, that isn't necessarily parallel to people's day-to-day realities. And that I, as a financial educator, care more about what's happening in your day-to-day reality because there's no way to get to saving for retirement if your day-to-day reality is barely able to feed and house yourself. So that's where I get really a little bristly about people getting too absorbed in what the stock market is doing day to day.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like there's a big difference. There's a wide chasm between what I think our leadership in the United States, and we have a global economy, so like the United States economy doesn't impact just the United States,
Right.
but I think it's a driving force, I would say, in the world economy. Like, because we are
Yeah.
the wealthiest nation, it does unfortunately have a larger impact. You know, whatever is going on with us does impact other parts of the world. And of course, when our economy is bad, we start making war with other places. So it
Yeah.
in
Or
many
we make war
ways.
with other places to make our economy better, as
Exactly,
we've done
exactly.
since what, the 1940s or earlier?
Exactly. And really, what we're saying with that is the economy is what? Weapons manufacturers? You know, like
Yeah.
it feels like there's a really big distance between what people up top, the 1%, for lack of a better term, how they view what the economy means versus the
Yeah.
rest of us. And so backing up a little bit, talking about, the astrology of the moment. I don't think you need to be an astrologer to look around and be like, things are not going so great in this department. Financially, there is a lot of instability. We've seen an enormous amount of layoffs and job losses just in
Yeah.
this year alone. And things are getting increasingly expensive, including basic things like housing and food and healthcare, and let alone entertainment. You know what I mean? Like, just the stuff
Correct.
we absolutely need to survive. And so, I was doing a reading for somebody on a live stream not too long ago, and they were specifically somebody that was dealing with the repercussions of all of this. And we're wondering, like, is the real estate market going to improve? Because that was the field that they worked in. And,
Right.
as an astrologer, I don't enjoy giving people not great news. But I also, like, I feel that it is really important. Why, people aren't coming to me to lie to them. I mean, if you are, I'm so sorry. That's, you picked the wrong astrologer. I won't lie
No,
to you. I'm
you do
sorry.
not lie, which I appreciate. You might
I
phrase things in a way that land a little bit more tenderly, but you never lie.
That's the Libra Venus. I won't, I'm not going to bullshit you. I just, and it won't help you. And
Right.
so I had to, I had to tell this person, look, you're going to have to be more creative in the coming months. I would love to tell you. I would love to, yes, tender truth. We got the Libra Venus. Thank God. You guys don't even know what a monster I would be without that Libra Venus. I swear to God, it's holding the chart together. I am a Scorpio Mercury. Sometimes the things I say can come off. Yes, Mackenzie. Scorpio is anti bullshit too. Yes. So anti bullshit that it can offend people. So we're going to thank the stars at this moment for my Libra Venus giving a little cushion to my Scorpio Mercury. But all this to say is, I don't want people to be unprepared for the situation that we're in. And I think you don't even need me to tell people that things are not going great, right? And so I just want to say that, zooming out a little bit, in general, economic stuff does not look very stable between now and spring. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't be pressuring the people who make decisions, the
Right.
job makers, our governments. That pressure is essential right now. And I know that's a strange thing to talk about, maybe on a show about the holiday season, but that's really at the crux of we're trying to talk about here today, is that the things are not good. And they're not good because we have an economy that is built on infinite expansion in a finite world. And that is the moment in time that we're in. We're in Pluto in Aquarius. I know I talk about it a lot, and that's because it's kind of underneath everything right now. We're in this 19-year period where what it means to be a human being is changing in a big way. And part of that is economic. We have an economy that serves the few, but we have this massive planet that is suffering from that. So, and including us, we are part of the planet. We are not, we're suffering because of the greed of a few people, right? And so, over the next few months, what I really feel based on the astrology is that there's going to be a continued emphasis on lack. There's going to be a continued emphasis on food is too expensive, housing is too expensive. And so, as we head into the holiday season, which is, a big part of at least the American economy, I can't really speak to, I'm sure it's a big part of the economy of other places as well, because it's a time of year where people tend to spend a lot of money. And it's actually, I think for some businesses, this is like, I don't know, like a third of their annual income or even more is just the holiday season. I actually saw a stat that was from, I think indie
Yeah.
bookshops is like a third of indie. Sorry, my dog just fell off her little stairs, but she's okay.
Oh no.
You okay, Mama? She's been running around all day. She's okay.
Oh,
She's on one. She's she's just running around, wanted a little attention. Your family talked, and you aren't doing Christmas this year. Okay, well we'll get to that because I feel like Shelby, you're onto something there, and
yeah.
that's something that we're gonna get into. But all this to say, I don't want to belabor the point too much, but there is an enormous amount of instability, and the point of this moment is for, I think, on a collective level, I think the function of this moment is for people to realize that the economy is built on a house of cards that doesn't even serve them.
Yeah.
The house of cards,
Yeah.
you're not even in the game. We're pawns in the game. We're the cards. We're
Yeah.
not we're not as a planet benefiting
Yeah.
from this economic system. As people, it is lowering our quality of life in so many different ways. And so for me, as an astrologer looking at this in kind of the macro, I really feel like this is sort of the beginning of a change in how we can approach the holidays. I think
So
that this
I really hope
particular
so.
yeah, I think this particular holiday season might be the one uh, that kind of sets a new tone for holiday seasons to come, because I think at this particular moment, so many of these issues are being highlighted very plainly for people because the math is not mathing, in just a very basic
Right.
way. So, that's kind of where we're at. And so the point of our conversation today is just to empower people with some ideas about how to approach this holiday season and give you options. Because first of all, something that Mimi talked about, Mimi has a wonderful podcast, Meadow Sweet Money. And Mimi is, of course, a financial educator, talking specifically about the financial aspect of the holiday season, which is a huge aspect of the holiday season that I feel like it's under the surface. We know this. We don't necessarily talk about it so much, right? Like that
Right.
is, like many things in our culture, it's like it's just, an unspoken thing is like and people do go into debt over the holiday season. They'll put everything on credit.
Yeah.
Santa will come, and
Yeah.
that's just kind of how it works for people.
We have a growing number of young adults who are entering their adulthood years and they're finding out that their parents took out credit cards in their name, which is, illegal to do. That's identity theft. But
Yes.
and a lot of times it was that money was taken out to pay for the holidays. So, years and years have gone by, interest has racked up over all of that time. And here we have kids who are entering, wanting to go to college and they're saddled with all of this debt and they have a choice. Unfortunately, they can either sue their parents and bring them to court, or they can try to pay it off.
Yeah.
And again, no one who truly loves us wants us to go into debt just for tradition. I truly believe that somebody
Yeah.
who it doesn't care, why are we giving them a present anyway? So I think that's where I'm like, we've got to kind of reverse this mentality that we have to always somehow top ourselves or do better or be impressive. Because honestly, nobody remembers. Nobody remembers from year to year. I certainly don't. I know that there are certain things that mean a lot to me, but it wasn't like I could go, oh yeah, it was this exact thing from this exact person for every single gift that I've ever been given.
Yeah. So, what is, like, for you, Mimi, what is the holiday season about for you?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because, we're all playing with lots of personalities, myself included. So there are certain holiday things that I have no control over. But the stuff that I do have influence or control over, I try to make it about the relationships with the people in my lives. So, great example, my husband is from Slovakia. And prior to, a few things changing within the family, every year we would do traditional Slovak Christmas Eve dinner. And it was one of my favorite things. It was a great way to honor his, heritage and his culture. I got to, learn how to make a lot of their recipes. But when that changed, after a few years, I realized I really started to resent the fact that our Christmas Eve looked different.
Right.
And it wasn't until I sat back and I went, wait a minute, I don't have to do Slovak Christmas Eve dinner on Christmas Eve. We
Mm-hmm.
could just do it, just the two of us. We could do it on Yule, or we could do it on another night that feels much more significant. And now it's one of my favorite traditions. And I make the, 5, 6 courses of everything just for the two of us in very small portions. And it's something that makes my heart so happy. So for me, the holidays are really about how do I spend time with the people that I love more than, all of the other BS going on in the world. Um, because I have a limited amount of time with my parents. They're getting older. I have a limited amount of time with my grandmother. She's 89 years old at this point. Like, I want to absorb quality time with the folks that I love. And the holidays allow us to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel very similarly, no surprise. But as a kid I was really into Christmas, and I love gifts. Who doesn't love a gift? You know what I mean? Like a good
Yeah.
gift. Come on. I'm pro gift. But for me, the holiday season, thinking about it, I had two families as a kid and two households. So, well, two plus, big family.
Right.
So it's like, the holiday season was a time where things just felt easier for me. And it was just pleasant. And people were nicer to each other. And we spent
Yeah.
time together. And it really was a time of appreciation. It still is. It's a time of, especially now that we're all adults for the most part. And, you know, uh, it's a time to reconnect because usually everybody's so busy, and so the end of
Right.
the year, the holiday season is usually like we're getting back to our foundations, right? And I'm thinking particularly of like Christmas being in it's a Capricorn holiday, right?
Yeah.
And thinking about it, right? Like to me it's like getting back to sort of that stable foundation that all of the rest of our life is built on. It's very Capricorn in
Hmm.
that way. And because, all of that, to me, the rest of the stuff that we deal with for the rest of the year is all meaningless without that foundation. And so to
Right.
me, the holiday season is really getting to that foundation of what it means to be a person. And I often say that it's embarrassing as a Scorpio to tell people that my favorite holiday is Christmas, because I know people that hate Christmas. And
Yeah.
understandably, I want to shout out to people that hate the holiday season, because it's not me, but I hear you, and I have people in my life that have experienced tremendous loss. It's a time of year that can be super triggering. It can be, it could just remind you of who's not there, even in some
Oh, for
senses.
sure.
Yeah, and so I really feel like at the heart of the season, it really is about like what's most important. And the gift stuff maybe is a reflection of who's important, but it's really not the foundation of the season in the way that, you know, all those commercials would have us believe. And so,
Yeah.
with that in mind, that was kind of, how I wanted to think about like, look, if and I'm sure most people that are going to listen to this, maybe they have a similar answer to our answers about like why this is an important time. I'm sure there's a lot of commonality in like why people that enjoy the holiday season enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, maybe there are things about this season that are meaningful to you anyway. But I feel like it is a really important year to get back in touch if you've lost touch with that, because it is a year where I think, given our situation in the world, not just economically, just everything, it's a year where I think things have the potential to feel heavier. And I
Yeah.
think when things feel heavier, it is actually really important. I think this is one of the reasons why we have winter holidays, is because it's so dark and it can feel really heavy, that it is actually important to celebrate. Like, it is. That's part of the
Yeah.
function, I think, of the holiday season, is even if you don't like Christmas, even if you don't like Thanksgiving, I don't even really celebrate Thanksgiving. Even if you don't like these holidays, find some ways to celebrate, make your own
Yeah.
traditions. Uh,
Yeah.
and I think in that spirit, I think that's kind of what our conversation is going to center around today, is that you don't have to do it the way anyone else does it. You don't have to do
Yeah.
it the way that you've always done it. Liberate yourself. Have a
Yeah.
radical holiday season.
Yeah. Treat this as a permission slip if you need one.
Yes, if you need permission, you have a financial educator and an astrologer telling you that free yourself from any kind of
Yeah.
ideas about what this season has to be, and think about what you want it to be, right? And how can you get closer to like what it is that you want. Another thing that I wanted to remind us is that, given the time that we're in, and we are in Pluto and Aquarius, it is a time where the masses are awakening. That's what we're experiencing right now. Is a lot of
Yeah.
people are being shaken awake, and it's uncomfortable, and people are scared. That's a natural that's a natural thing. Like, what is the first thing that babies do when they come out of the womb? They start screaming, usually. They're awake. They're suddenly in a different place than they thought that they were. That's a scary process, right? You can feel really
Yeah.
out of control and confused. A lot of people are in that stage of realizing kind of the big picture here. And
Yeah.
and part of that is people are awakening to their power. And so I want to embolden people to look at the holiday season as a time to take back more of your power. It
Yeah.
is, because it is. And that's partly what I mean when I say a very radical holiday season. We are at a moment where, fascism is rising. It is not a joke. I mean, the thing, just today alone, we have the president of the United States. He was celebrating the idea of executing people from the opposing party. That's it's getting real. It's been real, and it's only escalating. So one of the things that we need to remember is that even things that are fun and celebratory and that should be enjoyed, like the holiday season, we need to remember that everything is an opportunity to actually exercise our power and take back more agency.
Hmm.
This holiday season is no different. And so it's important to be mindful that we do actually have more power. They're not going to tell you, like, hey, you could be doing some other things differently. No, we're going to have to educate each other on that and encourage each other. I think actually the holiday season is a great time to have these conversations with people that might be in the process of waking up. Right?
Yeah.
It's an easy thing to bring up these kinds of conversations in a non-political way when you are, talking about the holiday season and this particular holiday season, and being mindful of the ways that you can approach this season and take back more of your power. And so I would start with, um, money is a big part of that. That's a
Hmm.
big thing that I've been trying to encourage people to think about. And
Yeah.
like, if you are going to spend money this holiday season, which probably all of us are, whether it's on food or beverages or, whatever gifts we might get, think about where you're going to, every dollar that you spend is a little bit of power that you're spending
Yeah.
somewhere.
It's a vote for
It's a
sure.
vote. It's a vote. And to think about how you might approach this holiday season in a little bit more of a radical way, understanding like, yeah, things are not great right now. So every dollar that I'm going to spend this holiday season, I'm going to do something to counterbalance or put energy in the direction I want it to go in. So let's talk about like some of the ways that people can, practically speaking, approach, let's say, spending money over the course
Yeah.
of this holiday season. I'll let you start.
Okay. I want to just kind of something that came to my mind as you were talking about
Yeah.
this is like I think a lot of times, and I say this all so frequently. I heard it from a friend of mine, Hannah, where she said, traditions are only traditions because we keep doing them. And I think a lot of folks hold on very tightly to traditions because they feel like it's something that they can control, even if it's not something that they love doing, even if it's not something that they're totally thrilled about, they hold on to it. And my husband and I were just talking the other day about how it took us about 3 years before we finally convinced his side of the family, which is a lot bigger than my side of the family,
Mm.
to finally try out doing a Secret Santa instead of giving gifts for everybody.
Yes.
And the reason that it took 3 years to convince us to try it was because there were
Three
so many
years.
folks who just, I mean, especially like his mom was worried about, oh gosh, how is this person going to feel or interpret this? Or how are we going to do that? Or I don't know about, is so and so going to get left out? Or what happens if somebody, it was like, it just took a long time. So I think if you approach people in your family about trying something new, and bucking tradition, if they bristle up against it or if they're kind of adverse to the idea at first, don't feel like it's a lost cause, especially if you know it's something that will work better for more people in your
Mm-hmm.
family. Um,
Keep
Now
bugging them.
that yeah, or at least, like saying like, hey, my favorite part of the holidays
Mm-hmm.
are these things. And it's sort of interesting how often, like, the stuff that we feel obligated to do are not usually the things that other people in our families are, most excited about. So we have to be kind of careful that we're not like doing stuff just for the sake of tradition without checking in to go, oh, yeah, does this matter to anybody else?
Right.
Um, but as far as saving money, like I said, if we're treating every dollar as a vote, there's always things that we could do. I recently saw on Martha Stewart's website that, and I'll link this in the Discord if anybody wants to read it later, but um, Martha Stewart's website actually came out with a article about how it's not tacky to give secondhand gifts. Like buying gifts from the thrift store can be really nice. And I'm like, I was so excited to see that, not because I'm a fan of Martha Stewart, not because I'm like into her stuff, but because I think there's just a world of people who need that like permission slip to go, let me just try something new. I can buy candlesticks from the secondhand store, which there's plenty of for cheaper and, would be more meaningful and better for the environment and all of the other things. They just needed somebody from somewhere to say that it's okay to do that. I think there's also we have to kind of prioritize like what is it that actually matters to the people that we love? And I always start with myself of I know that if I ask somebody, what do you want for the holidays? And they go, oh, I'm easy. They're, don't really, don't worry about me. Whatever you get me is fine. I know I'm going to be so irritated with that person. And I'm going to be so, frustrated. So I try not to do that to anyone else, where I'm like, okay, I can make a list of things that I will actually appreciate, that I will actually use, and that will not end up becoming junk that I have to manage or have to do something with, just like everything we bring into our lives, we have to become an inventory manager of,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everything that we bring into our lives and bring into our homes, we
Yeah.
have to repair, we have to take care of, we have to clean, we have to, do
Yeah.
something with. Eventually, when it's used up, we have to dispose of it. So everything that we say yes to, we're saying no to something else. And I don't know about anybody else, but I know all those Christmases and all of those holidays where I've gotten gifts and it's nothing that actually works for me in my life, nothing that makes me happy because I did that stupid thing where I was like, oh, whatever you get me is fine. I know that people are going to ask my husband, what does Mimi want for Christmas? And if
Right.
he has a list, it's going to be really helpful. So I choose
Yes.
things that are on that list that are from small businesses. I
Mm-hmm.
give specific links, for him of like, hey, I want this particular brand of something because I know I will use it and enjoy
Mm-hmm.
it, right? I think we also need to consider specificity when it comes to, if somebody says, oh, I want a candle. I don't know why that's what came to my brain, but,
Yeah.
I want a candle. Okay, can you tell me the exact brand that you love the most? Can you tell me the
Right.
exact, flavor? Because I
Details.
don't give me all the
Flavor.
details.
What flavor
So,
candle would you like to be chomping on?
right. So I feel like it for when we're talking about saving money at the holidays, specificity really matters a lot because, again, what we bring into our lives and what we give to people becomes a thing that they have to manage,
Yes.
whether that's going to be for a couple weeks or for a few years. So the more that we can make sure it's things that they actually want to manage, the better. And
Yes.
that's where I think going back to looking at maybe folks don't want another thing to manage. Well, how can we give them experiences? And I know everybody's like, oh my gosh, it's so expensive to get a gift card to, you know, the local museum or, and I'm like, do you have to give them tickets for the whole family, or could you do a smaller percentage of the tickets? Like even just covering the cost of the kids can be really helpful.
Yeah.
Um, I think we get too tied up in trying to make it the exact right perfect thing
Yeah. Hmm.
at the exact right dollar amount and forget that like sometimes just getting somebody 25% of the way there can mean so much.
Yes.
I know that there's been times that I've gotten gift cards to places where there's a non-alcoholic beverage company
Hmm.
online that I like to buy from. Okay, my friend gave me a gift card to that website, and it didn't buy me a whole bottle of non-alcoholic champagne for New Year's Eve,
Hmm.
but it got me 70% of the way there.
That's awesome.
And it
Yeah.
just took some like weight
Hmm.
off of me. So those are
Yeah.
kind of my first initial tips of like, if you're trying to save money, like do what you can with what you have where you are.
Yes. I
And
mean,
is
those are great tips.
Yeah. So I have a whole slew of them, but I think the other thing too is that we have to also kind of stop expecting that the idea of feast when it comes to food around the holidays has to look like a feast. We waste so much food especially in the United States, and most people cannot eat it all. And I know that, a lot of folks like leftovers and that's great, but it's okay to say, I only am going to buy enough to make 1 dozen cookies. I don't need to make 5 dozen cookies
Right.
because they're going to go bad before anybody can finish them all. So right sizing the expectations and right sizing what you're buying can be really helpful to avoid waste and also keep your budget intact. So
Yeah,
that was my other thing.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think those are some great perspectives to take as you think about how you might want to do this holiday season. I will say that I can't remember when it started, maybe like a decade ago. I, with my family, we started just as every single year we have a Christmas list. And so, like you said, I think it's a helpful thing to keep. And I actually keep a list of just stuff that I want year round
Hmm.
because for me and maybe other people that are neurodivergent, it may be difficult every November, December to be like, oh shit, what do I want? I keep a running list and I just update it as I go along, and then
Yeah.
come this time of year, it goes to the people that ask for it, and it's a very helpful tool. I for years I used the Amazon list. I don't do that anymore because I try to avoid Amazon as much as possible as part of
Yeah.
my voting with my dollars. But I found an alternate website, which if people are interested, I would be glad to share. That you can put links from any type of website, including Amazon, if you really really want. And I send that out to people. And I think I don't know how it is with other families and stuff, but I feel like we associate Christmas lists with children, and it's
Hmm.
and I honestly I think that's a limited way of thinking about it, and I think you're right. Like we really should be more specific. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying like here's some ideas of what to get me, because even if people decide to go slightly off list, if they maybe it inspires them to get something else, at least they maybe have a better sense of what you might
Yeah.
actually need and want. And so I think if that is something that would be helpful, I think that's a really, really, really
Yeah.
great thing to incorporate into your
Yeah.
holidays.
And even, I mean, my husband is known he has a very high caffeine tolerance. I am the opposite. I have a very low caffeine tolerance.
Yes.
Bless our poor future children. But he loves coffee, but he's very specific about the kinds of coffee that he likes.
Right.
And every year we're inundated with gift cards from Starbucks. we don't support
Oh,
Starbucks. We
no.
don't buy
Yes.
Starbucks. So inevitably,
I
we're
have an
either
idea.
giving them away to someone
Yes.
else,
Mm-hmm.
which means that the gift didn't really get to stick with us,
Sure.
or we're, trying to, you know, do like sell them or whatever. But
Yes.
we have started, and I've been very adamant, do not buy Stefan gift cards to Starbucks. Here's a list of local places that we love if you want to give him a coffee
If you
out
want coffee,
someplace,
yeah.
or you can give him a gift card from this specifically Black-owned business that he buys coffee from every single month and that works in his machine, this very fancy machine that
Sure.
he loves. So that,
Yeah.
yeah, it's that specificity really, really matters because people are going to go, oh, they like
Yeah.
this thing. I'm going to get them what's convenient and that I assume everybody wants. If you don't clarify, and again, I think communication is so important because expectations without communication is a breeding ground for resentment,
Yeah. Oh, and there's a lot of that to go around the holiday season.
especially around the holidays. Yes.
Cheers to that. Yes. So I love those suggestions, Mimi. I think look, and if you do get things like that, if you do get the Starbucks gift cards, if you do get the McDonald's gift cards, those are both places that I boycott. What I would do to offer this suggestion to people if you find yourself in that position, those would be the gift cards I would be giving to like unhoused people in my area.
Yes.
That would be
Yes.
like,
Yes. Yes.
please have these gift cards, get yourself something to eat. That's what I would personally do in that situation. And thinking about like you don't want to pawn things off, but for things that are truly like going to help somebody stay fed and alive, I think that's a great use for using some stuff that maybe you might not necessarily be in the market for.
Exactly. And there's so many ways that we can leverage what we have. I mean, there are nonprofits that can sometimes, it depends on a lot of different things, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's like, hey, I've got this gift card, I'm not going to use it. Let me donate it to this organization, or this mutual aid group that because I know that they can use it for something.
Yes. Mm.
Sometimes it's employee incentives or,
Mm-hmm.
thank yous to, staff or whatever. Like there are ways to utilize those things. But again, if we're trying to avoid waste in the first place, if we're trying to save money, not just for ourselves, but the people in our lives, the more that we can avoid those kinds of situations, the better. And I think part of changing the economy and
The economy is people.
the economy is people, and we have to, if we want things to change for the better, and for the majority of us, we've got to try some things out that are different. And
Yeah.
I have to remind people sometimes, like, the way that things have been set up have not been this way forever. Like, we've
Mm-mm.
not had credit, and credit scores for all of eternity. This is a new concept. This is a new
Yeah.
concept. We have not had, so much of our, futures tied up in things like stocks. You know, there's an estimate that about 50% of baby boomers do not have retirement savings, and we think of them as the generation that is like all prepared for retirement. They are not.
Yeah.
So if we're going to change the economy to make it more equitable for all people, we've really got to take small steps collectively, and one of those steps is by saying we don't need to be putting money into things that don't actually matter to us. If we want an economy that's built around things that matter to us as individuals, this supply demand process that we have to kind of shake that up. And one way that we do that is by, lowering our demands.
Right.
So I'm a big proponent of like the less that we can bring into our lives that doesn't matter to us, the better.
Absolutely. And I think so there are a number of ways that people could approach gift giving in this time. I think lists we've talked about are great. I think when people maybe hear a very radical holiday season, they think we're going to be like, no gifts. That's an option too if you wanted to do no gifts. But there's also a way to give gifts that, like I said, with the list that is more conscious. You could make plans with people, like you mentioned,
Hmm?
doing the gift exchange or like a secret Santa type of thing. Actually, it's
Yep.
funny. My family started doing this a few years ago, I think for financial reasons. It wasn't even my idea. I think it was just like a general, like, hey, this might be a better way of doing things. And it's a different way than we did things in the past. I've been really fortunate that my family has already been in this process of like moving away from some of the things that we did as a kid. I didn't have I for once wasn't the person like trying to drive the change in my family. It just happened naturally.
Yeah.
And we started doing this kind of a thing. We used to have that side of my family. They always were hosting, like they're hosting their Thanksgiving this year. I will not be there. I don't do that. But
Yeah.
they do, that's what their approach is. They do a big Thanksgiving, they host Thanksgiving. And now they do super low key Christmas Day. And our family, and the
Yeah.
other thing is I have two siblings and they're both, one is engaged, one is married. They have, they have another family that they spend the holidays with as well because they're, married types. So, our holiday season has evolved just because of that. Like, we couldn't do the traditional
Yeah.
thing every single year anymore because just life had changed.
Yeah.
And
Well, we did too. We do stockings only Christmas now with my side of the family, and it's
yeah,
wonderful.
exactly.
Just
Yeah.
stockings. It's so
hmm
nice.
My family, so we do, Christmas Eve is the time that this part of my family and I spend together. And it's actually a pretty, like, intimate thing. It's pretty much just our immediate family. And then, like, a couple grandparents and one aunt. Like it's super small. There's maybe 10 of us. And they do like a small catering for that, so it's not super
Hmm.
stressful. It's from a local Italian place, so it's
Oh, I
fueling.
love that.
Yeah, it's a local, business that is being funded. And then we do a game night. That's like we
Oh,
play
I love that.
games and it's super fun. We look forward to it every year. And then we do their Secret Santa. And then the rule that we have around Secret Santa is all the adults do the Secret Santa. And then for the kids, everybody gets the kids' gifts because they're the kids.
Yeah.
That's kind of the bonus. But that is the way that my family has kind of evolved Christmas. And it is a much more affordable and cost effective thing to do. And I actually think it's kind of fun in a certain way because you kind of just focus on one person and you kind of get to
Right.
spoil one person, and then that happens for everybody, so it's kind of a sweet thing to do. And like, there's, you mentioned secondhand gifts. You could do a version of this where it's like everybody has to do it secondhand, or only purchasing from small business, or you can put whatever kind of budget
Yeah.
requirements or anything that you want in this type of exchange. And there's more than one way to give gifts.
Yeah. I have a friend that does a book exchange with her family. So they all get a book on Christmas Eve that they wrap and, it's like a Secret Santa, but with, 'cause she's got a very
Mm-hmm.
small family. And so they, kind of swap out who they're giving to and they wrap the book. And then on Christmas Eve, after, they've had dinner, they sit down and they read their books. Like they start reading the books that they've been given. And it's so,
That's
so
cute.
quaint and cute. And like
Yeah.
I have another friend who does a theme every year because, like she did Blue Christmas, she did the Spirit of Christmas. So Spirit of Christmas, some examples was like she got her dad whiskey flavored toothpicks. She got a nephew of hers some socks with like beard design on it. Like, and it was great because the way she does it is that everybody opens their gifts and they have to guess what the theme is. So
Aw.
it kind of is a nice way to keep, things creative, but, the costs a little bit lower. And I think there's ways that you can make it personal and it's just stretching yourself a little bit beyond what is expected.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, like one of my favorite little things to remind people is like, we didn't, when you think of weddings, you think of the white dress, right? Well, the only reason that we have the white dress is because of Queen Victoria. So that tradition hasn't been around that long. Why are we,
Yeah.
sticking to traditions that, again, a lot of times haven't been here for too long? And I think
Yeah.
it's getting out of those
Mm-hmm.
kind of
Habits.
mentalities of like, yeah, the habits.
Mm-hmm.
But it might take a little convincing. It might take a
Yeah.
little time,
Well, and I
especially for folks who are stuck.
right, absolutely. And I think one of the ways that you can approach this is instead of bringing it up as like a negative thing, I think a lot of this this can be helped by the way that we deliver this. Like I have a new sexy way that we should do the delivery
Hmm.
of this, and it can be fun and creative. It doesn't have to be like we're buckling down for Christmas, because you don't it doesn't have to be a buckling down. It can be just a simplifying. Like
Yeah.
it's a matter of how you want to frame it to people, and to your particular
Yeah.
audience. Like if you're dealing with very religious people, you can be like, we're gonna do a very Christ-like Christmas this year, and a Christ honoring. There's so many ways that you could frame this, and it doesn't, like I said,
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a negative thing. Like this can all be a fun, like, let's try it this year. Let's see how we feel about it. None of it has to be set in stone
Absolutely.
either.
Right. And that was kind of what when we approached the whole idea of doing um, Secret Santa is like, hey, let's just try it this one year and see how it goes. And if nobody likes it, if we hate it, we could go back. Like it's totally fine. And that's kind of what eventually did it. And then even with this doing stockings only with my side of the family, you know, I brought up the idea, and my dad was like, well, as long as I get an orange in my stocking, I'll be fine. I was like, okay, cool, we'll do it, So, made sure to get his oranges. But I think there's a lot of again, I think a lot of times we kind of expect certain people in our families, and we may be very correct in thinking this, that there might be certain family members that are just not going to go for it.
Mm,
But if we can approach it of like, what is their pain point? What is the thing that they're struggling with? And for, like my grandmother loves Christmas. She loves gift giving. She loves but I had to remind her, like, you're on a fixed income. I don't want you spending the money that you're spending on me for Christmas. I would rather you be able to afford new dentures. I'd rather you be able to afford, you know, um, your storage unit, which that's a whole other beast of burden. But, like I made it like,
yeah.
hey, these are your pain points. These are the things that I know are hard for you. Please don't spend money on me. Like,
I was
please don't,
I was never able to convince my grandmother. I tried for so many years, and she was the queen of it. She's a Leo. She's a
Yeah.
generous woman. She
Mm-hmm.
was on a very, like many older people, I was on a very fixed income, and I was like,
Yep.
"Nanny, hello. Hi. I would love for you to just keep your money and just." But she, like, she's a more is more gal. And
Yeah.
I could never get her to stop. And she would just
Yeah.
always give me stuff, and unfortunately, like, so much of it I didn't use. It was just like every year, and it was so stressful.
Yes.
Some people are not gonna get with the program. So
Yeah. And we have to be prepared for that, but I think it's really knowing, like, work with what you got. And
mhm.
sometimes it's going to be like, hey, I know that this is going to be what it is, and I know that, I'm going to have to deal with this one particular there is one particular person in my family that I know every year they're going to get completely, drunk at the holidays and, sloppy. And I've had to decide for myself, like, okay, here's how I am choosing to handle it. Here's to protect my own
Mhm.
peace,
Right.
because you just have to, like, again, it's like
I loved what you
when
said. Sorry, I'm interrupting
yeah,
you
no, that's
completely.
okay. It's like we have to protect our peace, and we have to recognize that, like, we can't control everybody. We can't, dictate what other people are going to do, but we can do the best we can and try to make the most of the holidays for ourselves. And, yeah, I can be upset and irritated that I'm going to spend, Thanksgiving with somebody who's drunk, or I can be like, hey, I get to at least spend Thanksgiving morning decorating my condo with my husband and putting the tree up. I can be excited about, watching planes, trains, and automobiles like we do every year. Like, there are
Yeah,
things that I can be excited about, even if it's not perfect. Um,
absolutely.
so I think that's something we have to keep in mind too. Focus
I
on what you have
Yes.
control over.
I mentioned, I think Mimi did an episode called "Saving Money and Your Sanity" at the holidays
Hmm.
on the Meadow Sweet Money podcast, and you kind of started that podcast by talking about your boundaries around the holidays, which I love
Yeah.
that, Capricorn Venus. Uh, I was like, I'm so here for it. I think that's a good thing to think about with the holiday season in general. And part of, I think, like, my concept of a radical holiday season is approaching things in a way that is truly generative, that is truly
Yeah.
liberating, that is doing something for you, and versus I feel like the holidays have us most of the time, and we just get swept up in this sea of spending and what everybody's expectations are, and we miss all that stuff we started this conversation with, the stuff that's really important to us. And so I think part of that conversation we can have with ourselves about what is actually important to us about this time of year is what is our boundaries, what is this, maybe the stuff that we don't like and don't want to participate in, and being very clear with that, especially if we're dealing with people in our lives, loved ones that maybe are not, maybe they're not doing the best situation, they're going to negatively impact our holiday season in a way that's not so fun. Giving yourself permission to be like, I'm going to bounce, I'm leaving,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be explosive. And again, like, we can't control how anybody responds to our radical holiday season, but giving yourself permission to be like, if this is not an environment that I really want to be in, if this is an activity that I don't necessarily want to participate in, like, okay, so for
Yeah.
me, my boundary is I don't fuck with Thanksgiving anymore.
Yeah, which is totally fair. I mean,
Yeah.
we had a conversation recently about when my mom, like, she's like, I really don't care about Thanksgiving. I don't want to do it, but I really want to support this one little local business who
Mm-hmm.
has the best fried chicken in town. And
Oh.
I that's what I want to do with my family, is just sit and have fried chicken with my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, then let's not do it on Thanksgiving. Like, let's
Perfect.
just have a lunch or a dinner that week because, we'll
Mm-hmm.
have some time
Yeah.
off. And, we don't have to even call it Thanksgiving. We can
Yep.
call it something else. We can just, and
I'll
it's
tell you what I'm calling
great.
it. I'm
Tell
calling it
me.
thanks. I'm calling it thanks taking, and yeah, I'm thanks taking my ass over to my. Actually, my mom's coming over here, and I'm just cooking food that my grandma used to cook because she's no longer with
Oh,
us.
I love
And
that.
my grandma hated Thanksgiving. Also, she was a Scottish lady. She didn't give a shit about our American
Hmm.
bullshit. So I'm gonna make some meals some dishes that she liked. I'll probably make some stuffing. I do like stuffing, but other than that, there's no pilgrim talk on, it's literally just we
Yeah.
have the day off. We have the day off. We're going
Yeah.
to spend some time together, and uh that's
Yeah.
about it. We don't even go around and say what we're grateful for. It's really just like, we take our
Yeah.
food and we just spend time together. And that's a boundary that I have. I just at this point, I have I have too many conservative family members that I put up a boundary for myself, and I get invited every year to go to the church, and they do one day a year. And it's an amazing event that they do at this church where
Yeah.
they feed people a Thanksgiving meal. They have a hairstylist. They have
Oh,
clothes it's actually a really nice event that their church
yeah.
does, where they feed people. I think they even have like optometrists and dentists. Like, they do a
Oh, that's
lot. It's like
amazing.
I know, and it's a significant event, but I have this boundary because this is the church that I grew up going to. I don't go to that church anymore unless it's a wedding or a funeral, period. I don't
Right.
want to be there. I don't want to have anything to do with it. And that's
Yeah.
because, and as we're seeing this all play out, I grew up in what is now Christian nationalism, and I know exactly where it leads, and I won't participate. I won't. And I told my family, I was like, look, I work with unhoused people 7 days a week, 365. Like, it's not a one day a
Yeah.
year thing for me. I don't need, I get invited every year because they know that I do that in my
Yeah.
spare time, and they're like, well, this will be perfect for Kaycee to get her in the damn church. Like, they
Yeah.
think that, and every year I'm like, thanks, but no thanks, and that's my boundary. And I get invited every year, and I'm like, please stop asking. I would love for them to be like, nah. So maybe that's an eventual conversation that will happen,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Well,
for
and it's
now.
funny because like I grew up my when I was old enough to hear it, my dad and
Mm-hmm.
I would listen to Arlo Guthrie's Alice's Restaurant every year, as many families do. But I grew up knowing it was a war protest song, a draft protest song, and
Oh, wow.
um, so I don't feel like it's Thanksgiving unless I hear that song. But I also grew up with parents who are, you know, uh, very deep in their faith, and
Mm-hmm.
they recognize that, the Christ-like thing to do was to be generous and to give. And they tried to do that in the ways that they could on their very limited incomes. And a lot of that was just trying to be neighborly throughout the year, trying to be
Yes.
kind and generous throughout the year. My mom recently, she went through all of her Legos because, of course, my mother collects Legos. And she decided that the little boys who live across the street might, she asked the parents first if it was okay, but she was like, would you guys like to have these Legos that I will
Oh,
not use? And it's like that's the kind of spirit
sweet.
of generosity that I
Yeah,
think, again, it's lovely that that church does that, for Thanksgiving. Why is that not happening all year round?
that's my
Right? And maybe
question.
they do it, but,
Not
I think
really.
that's really what we're trying to do. I think that's what we're trying to communicate is like, hey, these things shouldn't be saved for just the holidays. We shouldn't be thinking about how do we care for one another and, being generous to one another just for the holidays. So that might
Yes.
be a question too of like, hey, it's great to have this. I love feeling generous. How might I be more generous through the year and tell the people that I love, that I love them, not just around Christmas and, or,
Yeah.
the New Year, but how do I say that in the middle of, June,
Right.
right?
Right.
Like this is
Shelby
this
said,
is something important to think about.
yeah. Shelby said, I call it Thanks for Nothing Day. One galactic mushroom said, I'm teaching my kids to call it Day of Reflection. Yeah. And I think, look,
Yeah.
if you are somebody that also doesn't want to do the whole Thanksgiving thing, that's very valid in my humble opinion. I think, if you wanted to redefine the day and, share a meal or whatever, I think one way to potentially approach that is maybe to look a little bit further into whose land do you occupy? If you are occupying stolen land in the United States, most of us are.
Yep.
Whose land are you on? What do they eat? Maybe that could be a jumping off point for your radical, not Thanksgiving, thanks for nothing day, or thanks taking, or whatever you want to define it as. But there is, I think there's a way to, and I think this is at the heart of our conversation. There's a way to redefine these holidays and these moments to have meaning and significance for the moment that we're in. And we're in Pluto and Aquarius. The thing is that everything's being redefined, whether we like it or not. We're being asked these questions. In the United
Hmm.
States, just thinking about the transits that the United States is going through as a whole right now, we are uncovering the foundations of this country, which are quite ugly.
Yeah.
So those things deserve to be redefined and reassessed because it's not going to stop happening.
Yeah. Another thing, actually, now that you bring that up, it reminded me. So, like, I've talked before about, living in Florida. Pumpkins are not really a thing so much naturally here.
Sure.
Like, they like we can do a lot to make them grow here, but they're not like native
Yeah.
to Florida. But Seminole pumpkins are. So
Oh,
the indigenous peoples that were here originally, grew these Seminole pumpkins, and it's a type of pumpkin, but it's more, little bitty squash looking thing, and they're actually really delicious. And if wouldn't it be cool to make, pumpkin pie out of Seminole pumpkins instead of, regular pie
yeah.
pumpkins? Or, looking at like kind of what's regional to your area and integrating it can be really cool. So like this time of year, citrus is just everywhere. There's a lot of really great fresh fish. That's, so like thinking of what is available in your area is another way to kind of honor um, the people that were here originally and to say, and without doing it in this like super, especially if you have family that it could be like bah about
Yeah.
some things,
Right.
like saying, hey, I saw this really cool vegetable that grows here, that was available at the grocery store, so I thought I'd try it. And you just
Yeah.
kind of try some things out to integrate those
Yeah.
more native plants and fruits and vegetables and produce and all of that stuff. So
Hmm.
that was something else that I thought of as you were talking about that.
Yeah. Well, sometimes that stuff, if it's more local, it can also be more affordable. So that's another thing to think about is that maybe operating a little bit more seasonally, a little bit more locally as
Yeah,
much as possible, that might be a way to kind of help the budget or maybe just reapproach the holidays in a different way.
agreed. Agreed. Yeah, and being creative about what is available to you. And I know there are a lot of families that a lot of families have folks either in their close family or in their extended family who are receiving food from food banks or receiving food from, SNAP. Like they want to be generous too. So it's a good thing to be flexible about what's on the menu because, maybe they can't bring the exact dish
Yeah.
that, you have in your mind, but they can bring something with the food that they've been given.
Yeah.
And I have can speak from experience, people who are getting food from food banks and because food stamps tend to be very willing to be generous with the things that they're given.
Yeah.
Especially if it's food that they cannot personally eat, they want to make sure that somebody eats it.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so that's another
Absolutely.
thing we need to be more inclusive of those folks too.
Absolutely. I love that. Thank you for bringing that up because you're right. And I think this is one of the maybe more positive things about this season. Like I was saying, I think this actually is an opportunity to open up some more conversations about just the moment that we're living in a way that might feel a
Yeah,
little less high stakes than just being like, "Hey, how are you doing financially?" Like,
yeah,
and maybe being more vulnerable with your loved ones about like, you know, I'm not doing great this year, and being transparent and choosing that as a radical act of love is to be
yeah,
honest with others and make space for them to be honest with you about what this time of year is really meaning for them in practical terms.
yeah,
Another thing I will say is that with often budgets being tight, another thing that we can think about going back to gift giving and honestly just like mutual aid as a whole over this time of year, people really do need help in practical ways. You can give your time if finances are not
yeah,
something that are available to you. And I know time is also a precious resource that maybe people
yeah,
don't always have, but it's an alternative thing to think about, like, maybe I can't take somebody out to dinner to celebrate whatever it may be, but I can give them, like I can give them a coupon, like, hey, if you're somebody that's good at cleaning, like here's a coupon, I'll clean your house one time this year. Like, there's
mm-hmm,
things that you can do, just favors, support.
yeah,
If maybe if some people are really good at giving massage, like there's so many different things that like depending on your
mm-hmm,
skills you can offer to people. I've given people astrology readings for their birthdays for, if they're into that kind of thing. If you have a particular skill
yeah,
set, that might be something that you can offer. And even if it's not like a particular skill set, driving someone to the airport, something like that, like you can
yeah,
give people other things that are not necessarily physical objects. And
yeah,
I think this is a good year to play with that if that is something that would be helpful to you, is or not even it can be favors, but it can also just be quality time. Like, hey,
mm-hmm,
I this year money is tight. I would love to. I think you even mentioned this on that podcast episode, like let's get some hot chocolate and walk around the park. And I'll treat
yes,
us to hot chocolate. Kind of, an activity or quality time together. Like those are also great gifts to give to people. And honestly, like there are plenty of things that people could offer me that I would be like, that sounds great. Like, so
yeah,
feel free to be more creative with the what you give. It doesn't always have to be like a physical thing.
yeah. Even just knowing that there are times when, I think of like a friend of mine who had two kids kind of back to back, not planning on it that way, but it just happened that way. And,
Babysitting.
like babysitting, but or even more importantly, like, hey, I will sit with your toddler and play with them on the floor so that you can get some things done around the house
What a
and have
gift.
the baby strapped to your chest like the whole time. I have dropped off like, hey, let me just drop off this frozen lasagna to your house and I will not make a peep. I will not make a noise. I will text you and let you know that it's there. Like, but there's so many ways that we can support folks And I think it's remembering like what do people really need right now? And a lot of times it isn't the physical stuff. It's just like, hey, can you sit with me? You know, I've got to make or like I've got to make this stupid phone call to a doctor and I just need somebody to like sit with me while I do it so I can get it done and off of my list. You know, there's a lot of ways that we can be there for people that are not, you know, physical items that are honestly far better and far more
Yeah.
important.
Oh yeah. I mean, I love that idea, especially if you have like you said, like a new parent. They need a lot of support and a lot of help. Like imagine, I've been a part of a, it's a it's like a digital school that I was a part of, and
Hmm.
in that they had a group where people could swap like they could do basically like assistant type tasks for each other, but they would trade like, here, will you call and make this appointment for me and I'll do something for you.
Yeah.
Things like that. Like you can literally do like menial tasks for people, and especially for really busy people or people who may be like dealing with, caregiving, whatever that looks like for them. I know
Yeah.
people who are caregivers to other adults that would love some, companionship for who they care for so that they can have an afternoon to themselves.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like there's so many ways that
Yeah.
we can give to people. And I think we're saying here is like let's think bigger about what it means to give somebody something, to gift somebody
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
There's so many options.
Yeah. I mean, especially, you know, our senior citizens of like, you know, folks who are we have such a loneliness epidemic, you know, in our culture and it's
Yes.
become such a problem. And like we recently went to visit some friends, you know, they're really clients of my husband's, but they're, you know, the gentleman is getting up there in age and not in good health. And like he was so delighted that we just sat there for a couple hours and put together a jigsaw puzzle with him.
Sweet.
It wasn't like
Yeah.
anything hard. It wasn't, you know,
Yeah.
I didn't have to like help him get dressed or anything crazy. It was
Yeah.
just like the time sitting with him and putting together a puzzle just made his day.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's still talking about it, you know, so it's like we have to remember that sometimes the things that people want and need most from us are not the things that we think of as significant. Um, but they really do go a long way.
Yeah. I think people remember less than they remember gifts. They remember, like they say, how you make them feel.
Hmm.
And so, if you can make people feel seen and valued and cherished, that's a good gift,
Yeah. It is a good gift.
right?
Yeah, it's so important to just make sure that the folks that you love know that you love them and you don't have to always do it through just saying it. It can be
Yeah,
through a lot of different ways.
absolutely. Absolutely. Another little thing that I've done over the past several years, I was kind of like this as a kid, but I couldn't get my family to get on board with it. I was always trying to like save the wrapping, not the like, not the ripped up paper, but like any bag that wasn't.
Yeah.
I had one household that would toss all of the bags, even if they were just fine, and I
Oh,
like couldn't understand it. We
oh,
don't
that
do that.
hurts my
We don't.
heart.
I know we don't do that anymore because why? Financial reasons. But I was like,
Hmm.
Miss, like eco, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And they didn't. They
Yeah.
were not. They didn't find that as compelling as we could save some money. So that's another thing that we can do just to like maybe alleviate some of the stresses and extra stuff that comes with this time of year is thinking about like how we can repurpose things from year to year, or instead of, sometimes people want to do a different, holiday theme for every year and they want to go out and buy a bunch of different stuff. Maybe instead of doing that, thinking about like how you can repurpose things that you already have, or
Yeah.
boost them, or go to the thrift store and maybe see if you can find
Yeah.
stuff there. There's like so many different ways to make this time of year less of a burden, I think.
Yeah. My parents have a tradition. There's the first year that they were married, so this is going to be the 38th Christmas together. I think my mom gave my dad something in a shirt box, and they've like taken turns
Giving
putting
each other.
gifts for each other in this shirt box. And so it's like got all sorts of taped up little corners and it's, been rewrapped and all this stuff on it. But it's such a meaningful thing
Yeah,
between the two of them and something that they'll continue to do, I'm sure, for the rest of their lives. But it's sweet because I know that every time I see that shirt box, like how long it's
it's
been around,
fun.
that shirt box is as old as me.
Right? And
So,
then
you know,
these like little things like that can become kind of a new tradition, and it can be kind of like a fun thing that you look, it's small, it's a small thing. Like
yeah.
you're looking for that shirt box every year. It's not the centerpiece of the holidays, but it's also kind of like a funny little thing that you get to
Yeah, I
look forward to.
recently read an article, two sisters who do, I think they call it Whamorama. So they try to go the longest that they can without hearing the like Wham sung Last Christmas
Mhm.
out in the world.
Mhm.
And so whoever, can make it the longest, it's like a thing that they do. And
I
so I
love
think
that.
we gotta bring some fun back in, it's fun and humor back into the
Yes.
world. And one way to do that is like kind of creating these weird little traditions
Mhm.
that just because again, I think we're all like in the thick of it. And I know people are tired and I know people are just and let's bring some flippin' joy back into the holidays
Right?
that's
Yeah.
not about the consumerist stuff, but genuinely about the connection.
Right. Yeah, don't beat the shit out of people on Black Friday. Like that's kind of the opposite
Yeah,
of what the
you don't have
season's
to participate in Black Friday at all. You don't have
exactly.
to.
And if you do, I would
Like,
say like maybe look for like smaller businesses. Maybe look for
yeah,
places that are doing deals that are, Jeff Bezos. Like we do a little better than that, maybe.
yeah. And even speaking of, Black Friday, if you really want to take, I am currently doing a no scroll November challenge. So no apps whatsoever that have endless scroll, right? And it's been wonderful for my mental health. But if you really want to change things, make an effort to avoid advertising, even just for one day, Black Friday, because so much money is spent on trying to manipulate you. And again, when we're built on you had said earlier about the idea that we're built on this economy structure of there's always scarcity, there's never enough. And that's a lot of what marketing is making us believe that we are not enough. And the holidays are one great example of that. If you really pay attention to the messaging is you are not enough unless you spend a great deal of money. Your relationship with other people, you can't prove that love them unless you give them certain kinds of gifts or an amount of gifts or, whatever. And yet they're spending all this money regardless, but we do not have to give them our attention and our focus. We live in an attention economy. And when we're dedicating our attention to these things, even if it's just for a split second, the message that we're getting over and over and over again from all these different directions is that we are not enough and that we're not doing enough and that we have to subscribe to a certain kind of uh, external appearance of what the holidays are meant to be. And I think that's
Yes.
what perpetuates this idea that, we have to uphold certain traditions or that we have to do certain things. And if we start taking our attention away, if we start safeguarding it from the barrage of advertising that we get, especially at this time of year, there's not going to be anyone to market to. We have to start, making our attention this precious thing. If they profit off of our attention, that means our attention is really valuable. So don't give it to them away for free, is what I keep coming back to.
Absolutely. You are so right on. I 100% agree and I endorse this
Yeah.
message. I couldn't have said it better myself. I think look, I think we're at a moment where a lot of people realize like things need to change. Even people that you and I disagree with, even they know that things need to change.
Hmm.
Things are pretty not good. So the reason why things are not good, again, goes back to the 1% that people that are major stakeholders in a lot of these companies that are profiting from the holiday season. The sooner, if you want results, if you want a better life, the sooner we take away the attention and the money as much as we can from these people and these institutions, the sooner we will see results, the sooner life gets better.
Yeah.
So, it's not just giving them the finger just because it feels good. It does feel good. I promise you that. Really
It really
does.
does.
I hope you get addicted to giving them the finger and a little more, but that's not the point. The point is we deserve better. We deserve better. We deserve
Yeah.
better than this. We are more valuable than some bullshit gifts that somebody got us because they wanted to make us feel special, but we didn't really need or want or whatever. The Again, reconnecting with what is actually important to you around this time of year is another great guiding
Yeah.
light to follow in the rest of the year. Like getting down to brass tacks and finding ways to get your needs and wants met outside of, uh, you know, Walmart and all of these other institutions that literally profit off of poverty in this country. They
Yeah.
profit off of our misery. Every dollar we keep out of their pockets is a win.
Yeah. Especially dollars that have interest,
Mm-hmm.
not putting things on credit cards. And I know that if you have not put money away for the holidays, and I know a lot of folks have not done so, they're coming, it's like, oh my God, the holidays are here and I have nothing saved. And it's very difficult if you're not planful way ahead of time. But if you're not, there is still time. You can still put a little bit away. And even if it doesn't, let's say your goal, like, oh gosh, I think I'm going to spend about, $400 this year. I'm just throwing out a number. And let's say between now and, mid-December, you can only get $100 saved. Well, that's $100 that you're not putting on a credit card.
Yeah,
Every little bit that you can do really does make a difference. Even if it doesn't feel like a lot, that's, another $100 that you're not putting on a credit card that you're not, paying interest on in January, February, and on and on. So
yes,
please, as much as possible, even if you don't feel financially prepared yet for the holiday season, do the best you can with what you have where you are. And it's okay to say, you know what, this is not the year that I'm going to do it, but I'm going to start putting away $5 a week for the holiday season starting in January and just making it an automatic thing because the holidays shouldn't be sneaking up on you. You know, they are something that we deal with every single year. And it's okay to say, you know what, I deserve, even if I only get a small percentage of the way there, I deserve to have a little bit more financial peace and calm when it comes to the holiday season.
absolutely. Well, let me open this up to our live studio audience here.
Yes.
If anyone has questions for either of us about, I guess, the astrology or about the end of this year and how you might have a more radical holiday season, we're here for you. We're here for you. Or if you want to
Yeah.
suggest something that maybe we didn't mention, now's your shot. Like this is the heart of Petty Astrology Live is that we get to interact with you. And I want to
Yeah.
thank
And
you
if
guys
you
for
have
the great.
suggestions too, yeah,
Yeah,
suggestions on things that you do to save money, things that you find helpful to stretch the dollar, because I think it's the more that we can, share ideas, the better for sure. People are, always itching for new ideas.
absolutely. Shelby had mentioned earlier, my mother-in-law is always doing. They're referring to secondhand stuff, thrifting,
Hmm.
and then she spray paints things or jazzes them up, which I think is
Oh,
really
that's
cool. It's like
great.
it's a little bit, it's a little bit of a combo. Like, I always say I'm always a proponent of people if you are capable of making things, that's a great thing to do for the holiday season if you have and it can be actually it can sometimes it can be more expensive, but if you have supplies, if you have, it's going to depend on your particular situation, but making gifts is a great thing to do, but also that's a great thing also with a little bit less of a bar to clear is kind of zhuzhing up stuff that you might get at the thrift, especially if you're like, sometimes people are really good at that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Shelby
Yeah, I
said
go
she
to a
got me.
cookie swap every
Oh,
year and I
cute.
make an ornament. I like everybody buys ornaments, but I always make an ornament
Yeah.
and
Oh,
it
speaking of,
becomes like a thing that people
yeah.
get excited about.
Speaking of, that's a great thing. I had meant to mention this because one of my family's traditions that we do is it's so gendered. All the women, what if I tell them that I'm, never mind. I feel like it's all of the women in the family.
Yeah.
I'm like woman light, I guess. But you know, they put us all in the kitchen and they say bake the cookies. And actually it's really fun. I know I'm making it sound not fun, but I just think it's weird that the guys don't do it. I don't know. But they'll still make you participate. Yeah. Yep. They're like, "You're a girl." Sure. Okay.
Okay.
Um, yes and no. So I that's a great thing to do, but this is an idea that started a tradition that started in our family because they're church people and they know like 50 million people in their church
Yeah.
community that need gifts. So, excuse me, every year we cook, I'm not even kidding you, like an army's worth of baked goods, and then everybody we do it collectively, and then at the end everybody divides it up, and some of us, you know, the church people, they take most of it. I take like a few little things. I don't need an army of cookies, but that's another thing. If you're somebody that bakes or any of that
Yeah.
kind of thing, those are great gifts too. Is something
Yeah.
simple.
Yeah.
People like to eat. I mean, especially now, I don't know about y'all, but my budget for treats has gotten a lot smaller. I don't get the treats that I want anymore. So you bet when somebody hands me a tray of
Oh,
cookies,
yeah.
my ass is going to town on those things. You know what I mean? So,
Well, and I like to take them and I leave a few out, but the rest go in the freezer because I can take that out for
mm,
weeks and weeks, to
hot
I
tips
can
from
make those
Mimi.
stretch. Like the
I'd
cookies are
never
great.
even thought of that, Mimi. So you just blew my mind.
Yay! Now you can have more
Awesome.
cookies.
Yes, now I have cookies forever. Infinite cookie glitch just dropped. Shelby said she got me an amazing back to the mother-in-law. She got me an
Oh,
amazing antique
yes.
lamp one year. She spray painted the base and then added gold antiquing. That is super awesome.
That's
And that's like
amazing.
that's a pretty like, you know, like spray paint and some gold antiquing like it's that's like light creativity, you know what I mean? If you're, I know some people
Hmm.
are a little sensitive about like maybe I'm not the most creative person, but the stuff like that, it's like, you know, if you just take your time, you probably can make something really cool with not too many resources.
Oh,
Ren
yeah.
says they will still make you participate. Ask me, I know. It's like you ladies get in the kitchen, and then they're all talking about their husbands and stuff. I'm just standing there like, oh my god. Anyways, not to say that I don't. I like, you know, I like all the husbands in general. I just feel like the odd duck in those situations where, you know, it gets very heteronormative in the family.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I end up being the person at the cookie swap. This is a friend of mine, whose family is also very religious, and I end up being the one that everybody is like, "Can you open the champagne bottle? I'm scared." And I'm like, "Oh, geez." So, I don't really drink, but I'm like, "All right, sure, I'll, crack it open." And so, yeah, I get it just gets really weird sometimes. But I'm also the
oh
one that, will randomly say a cuss word in the middle of dinner because I
yeah,
get excited about something. So, and
yeah.
somehow her mother still likes me. I don't know.
That's that's cute. Ren said we started enjoying old school Christmas and it turned out to be nice watching spooky movies because all the media doesn't
Yeah.
include gift giving. Unless you're watching Black Christmas. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, I was finding loopholes
It's
because
like,
that's what my brain
yeah.
does. But I
Yeah, I gave up on I don't watch the big parade anymore because it's all ads, and that makes me
I don't
sad.
know why I've always been really I do not like parades like that. I don't know why. I don't know why. There's something about them that just I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't
Well,
know.
when I was a kid, the local high schools, like it wasn't every single year, but enough times they would be getting into the, big parade every year in New
Mhm.
York, and they do fundraising and all this stuff. So it's like it was exciting to catch them on the TV. And
Yeah.
now they don't even show like the high school,
Oh.
bands or it's
Yeah.
like, all right, forget this. I'm not what is a phrase that a friend of mine said recently? I'm not getting frustrated for free anymore. And that
Yes.
was really helpful. Like, and I'm just not getting frustrated for free by watching things that make me sad and advertised
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah. I mean, the thing that you were looking for in that parade sounds way better than, you know, we're talking about like these big box stores parades or like even when we
Yeah.
get to summertime, we get to Pride and stuff like those parades like they just get taken over by advertising and that's like the least cool part of a parade. It's like, yeah, the high school band, that's cool to see that kind of a
Yeah.
thing, and performers, and in other countries they
Yeah.
have parades where they honor like workers for being worker. Like we could honor people for other reasons, and then we're just like, oh, here's, I don't
Yeah.
know,
But when
parades.
viewership drops, on those
Hmm.
kinds of events, then they have to, you
Change
know,
it up.
they have to change it up. So we'll
Yeah.
see what happens. But
Yeah, Shelby said with the antiquing, it's hard to mess it up because it's supposed to look aged. Yeah. So I mean, that's a
yeah,
good, if you're not super like crafty and you want to make some stuff, is maybe find something that's not like gonna have like it's not supposed to look super perfect, right? And I also think that anything handmade or anything that you take time to do, it's like especially this has gotten truer by the day. I have always liked art where you can tell that a human was involved because it's not perfect. Call me
yeah,
crazy, but like, and then AI comes out. I'm like, this is like freaky. It's perfect, but
yeah,
it's like hideous, and I hate it.
yeah.
Not so
Everybody's
pretty.
getting ceramics pieces that I made in my ceramics class for the
Oh,
holidays.
that's
Everybody's getting something.
wonderful. I
Yeah,
love
little
that.
trinket dishes, all, yeah, because I already
Yeah.
spent the money to take the class.
Right. Right. Yeah, there's so many ways to do it. Well, thank you so much for having this conversation with me today. It was very
Thank
fun
you.
to talk about reimagining our holiday season, which I think is that's at the heart of a radical everything, is that we've got some issues and we should kind of pull that stuff out by the root and see what else we
Yeah,
can grow, because I think we could be doing a lot better than we are. And I think my perspective on this holiday season is that this is potentially the beginning of a new way of approaching our economy and our relationship to each other through that economy. I think that this is
yeah,
maybe the perfect time, as odd as that might sound here in consumerist United States of America, but I think this is the perfect time to kind of address some of that economic stuff head on and say, hey, like, we could have better. Let's start practicing and figuring that out through the holiday season and go from there.
yeah, yeah. There are so many things that in our history that we imagined would always be a certain way, and they aren't. And we have the opportunity to imagine something better.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to pull up real quick just to show the people. We've got, oh, that's my email inbox. Hold on. I had it pulled up, but I forgot to put it on the screen. It's Mercury retrograde, okay?
It certainly is.
So it's not going to be perfect. And neither does your holiday. Your holiday season doesn't have to be perfect either. So we're on meadowsweetmoney.com here, and I just wanted to point out this is Mimi's episode, Saving Money and Your Sanity at the Holidays. Please check it out if you would like a little bit more of this conversation. Mimi presented some really great ideas and things to think about that
Thank you.
that is additional. It's if you want some additional information, please check out Meadow Sweet Money. And thank you again, Mimi. I appreciate it. Always
Thank you.
fun to have you on the stream. And thank you to our live studio audience and to the people that are watching on YouTube in the future. I will see you all. Oh, you know what? It's so funny because as we're talking about this, uh, Thanksgiving is next week, so I will not be. Like I said, I'm not celebrating Thanksgiving, but I will not be here on the live stream next Thursday. We're gonna have to skip it because I'm sure you guys won't be here either, and I'm not gonna talk to myself. So, we will be back in December. December 4th will be the next
Yay.
edition of Petty Astrology Live. So I will see y'all then. And until then, Patreon, Discord, that's where you can find me. Have a happy holiday season. Bye.